All right, let's talk about this course. This is assessing and responding to student writing. And really what that means is that this is a course about feedback. It's a course about revision. And it's a course about assessment, evaluation. How do we give credit to the work that people are doing? Um, and, and so we'll be diving in deep on the act of giving feedback, receiving feedback, and everything that goes along with that, all the way down to what it feels like to give and receive feedback. And we'll talk about how feedback is tied to revision. If you get advice, if you get suggestions, then what? What do you do with those suggestions? What do you do with that advice? And what's the purpose of feedback if you were not making tweaks, making improvements, trying to move the things that you're making forward, or at least what you believe is forward, right? Um, the writing process, sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and on and on. But we'll be talking a lot about feedback and revision, how they're tied together. And then we'll also be talking about the assessment component. Uh, there's different kinds of feedback. Some feedback is uh, formative. We're teachers, we've talked about that. It's constructive. How do we make a thing better? And some feedback is evaluative. Here's how you've done it, and here's how you stack up against some set of standards. It might be a rubric or a heuristic, or even just my own interior feeling of what good and bad is, right? So that's evaluation, that's assessment. Um, but how do we do assessment so that it's equitable, so that it's fair, so that everyone has an opportunity to do well? Um, and and what's more, how often do we say that we're doing this formative feedback when what really comes out is evaluative feedback? And then, and then, even crazier is how often do students take what we're giving them to be evaluative when we intend it to be formative? Um, that is, sometimes we give suggestions or ask questions, and students hear it as, please do this. And then we've taken the writing process, this moment of student creation and composition, and we've made it ours. And now they're working to make something for us instead of making something that stems from their own purpose, right? So we'll talk about that throughout this class. We've got 7.5, 8 weeks together, and so we're going to go bit by bit. What is feedback? What is revision? How does it implicate assessment? And all along the way, in addition to talking about feedback and revision and assessment, we'll also be talking about languaging. Languaging is a term in rhetoric. Uh, uh, you may have heard the phrase, students have a right to their own language. It's one of the foundational tenets of uh, rhetoric and composition theory. Um, and sometimes we do a good job of making sure that students have access to their own language, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we keep students from expressing their ideas in ways that are meaningful to the way that they create knowledge. Um, and so we're gonna take all of that theory about languaging, and we're gonna incorporate it into this class, but not just as something that we learn about, but also as something that we do. I want this classroom space to be um, meaningful, creative, uh, a place where all students feel que pueden escribir en cualquier lenguaje. Even I trip up sometimes. So the goal is that students draw on their languages to make meaning y que aprendan le aprendizaje, the learning. The learning is what's important. It's what matters. And so if that learning happens in English or Spanish, Spanglish, Tex-Mex, French, Russian, Urdu, Hindi, Tagalog, uh, why not go there? Um, why not think about languaging in relation to feedback, revision, and assessment? Why not think about languaging in relation to learning? Um, the way that we language is so closely tied to the way that we make meaning. In the syllabus, I use the word epistemic. And epistemic is the kind of a learning word that we apply to situations where meaning is being created. Learning is not just happening, but like the knowledge is being created. Go back to um, my own uh, research interests in quantum physics and rhetoric. How is something created? Almost it sometimes feels out of nothing, but it's not out of nothing. It comes from all these different strands. Languaging is one of those strands, but not only is it one of the strands, it's such an important integral strand because that's how languaging is tied up with how we communicate and express what we know, what we think, what we believe, what we understand, where we're confused and what we're concerned about. Um, so all of that to say, if you do know a language other than English, including all the dialects of English, like texting and slang and the language we use at home, um, feel free to use that language to make meaning in this course. I don't always have to know that language. What matters is that you're learning, you're processing, you're creating knowledge, that episteme. And I know that's confusing, but we'll get into it more as this semester continues. So, feedback, revision, assessment, languaging, tying all of that together to figure out how we can be better teachers, how we can be better colleagues, how we can lead our students to develop their own ideas, and so that we can all have a better understanding of where we are, where we want to be, and how to get there. And that's how feedback, revision, and assessment are tied together. It's a lot to go on, but that mess, that whole mess, that's what this class is about. And so we're going to start little by little, and by the end, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did all of this. Questions? I hope you do. I hope you have a lot of questions, and I hope you write in those questions into your reflections, into your reading responses, and into your portfolio by the end of the semester. So I look forward to working through this knowledge with you. Let's get on it.